Welcome to another episode of Real BMX Racing, the podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by the BMX Connect, Answered S Squared, Frenchman Racing, Always on Top, Eddie's Blocks, 110% Nutrition, Extreme Squared, Artistic Apparel, with a special shout out to Toby Henderson over there at Box Components. Today we have one of the top female riders from the 41-50 expert class, and her name is Erin Artzner. So, I always start off by asking, how did you get started in BMX?
That's kind of a long answer, but I'll keep it short. Basically, my brother was obsessed with BMX when we were kids. It took him a couple years to convince my dad to let him ride. And so he started racing at around 12 years old. So naturally, I made fun of him for it. I'm 2 years older. And then later, we were actually in Ohio on a family vacation, and my cousin up there actually raced at the time. He was my age. I actually saw him go get on his bike and do a 360 down my grandpa's hill, and something just clicked, and I thought, wow, like I want to do that for the rest of my life. And it took me a couple years to convince my dad, and so we built up a secondhand bike, and when I was 17, I started riding.
So when you say riding, do you mean racing, or did you start doing freestyle to start with?
So I actually started dirt jumping, which I'm extremely bad at. Back in the day, my friends used to have me stand up on the bike, and they would hold onto the seat, and they would run as fast as they could and get me going toward the dirt jump and just send me off of it. So then I started going to the track a lot more and realized that I liked kind of the speed of it, I guess, more than the jumping. Even though I still try to jump here and there.
I was going to say, do you still like to go for it? When it feels right, you just pull up and just go for it?
It does. It does. Sometimes you don't think about it. You just kind of have to.
Right.
I
was going to say, do you jump doubles or is it just tabletops?
I'm jumping tabletops right now. I've jumped a few small doubles though. So
okay.
In the last week.
Yeah. I can see a 10-foot tabletop, and I'm like, I'd try that over a 5-foot double. I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, it's like it's not the going in the air that freaks me out. It's actually the landing part.
Right, right. That's exactly how I feel about it.
Have you ever crashed jumping?
Oh yeah, I've crashed jumping mostly on trails back in the day. A bunch of friends. And we would go out into these fields. I used to live in Texas. I live in California now. And I used to live in an area where they were still developing a lot. So they had a lot of fields and, fun stuff for kids to go out and kind of just claim a field and build jumps. And so we used to do that. And I would just strap on my pads and send it and fall occasionally, but nothing super bad, luckily.
So when you started racing at 17, are you telling me that you've been racing this whole time from 17 to the age you are now?
No, absolutely not. When I started, I was completely in love with it. And then I hit 26 and just sort of realized that it was taking forever even to get through college. I kind of realized that I needed to grow up and mature a little bit. And I was a little burned out for various reasons. And so I just quit for what I thought was forever. And I just kind of threw myself into the college experience and did everything that I was too scared to kind of do. That was out of my comfort zone. I joined a sorority. I got super involved on campus. Got out, started working on my career. And then I came back around, I want to say 6 or maybe 7-ish years ago now. It's been a while.
So when you say career, what is that?
So I'm in social media. I work for a hospital in the Bay Area, and we're a small but mighty team. It's just myself, my boss, and my coworker. And it's been great. I've been here for 2 years and learned a lot.
Nice.
Very cool.
So then you remember how it was. Not that far back in the day, but you remember back when you first started racing. I'm assuming you're part of the dirt track era like we were.
Yes, very much so. I'm a mid-school BMX racer through and through. My very first track in Houston was called Outback BMX. It was in BL. So when I started, I actually started in Supergirls because at the time it was 16 and over, which is why I went to the ABA. Because if you were Supergirl, I guess you were put in with like the pros of the day, even if you couldn't bounce on the gate.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a bit difficult to start at that age. But I had some really great people at the track that I learned from. Kyle Bennett was the first person I actually met when I went to the track. He was amazing. So it was just awesome hanging out with his friends, sitting on the back of their truck and just watching him dirt jump at the trails behind the track.
Nice.
There's so many people, but yeah, definitely dirt tracks all the way. No soil tack.
Right. Shannon?
So let me say this. Like you started at 17, you said?
I did.
So, and a lot of people don't start at that age. That's like maybe the age where people used to race. Maybe they get a car, girlfriend, boyfriend. They end up quitting.
Yes.
So when you first got in, did you find yourself racing like just out of your class a lot, like your age and your, racing boys? And how long did it take you to move up, to intermediate and then to expert, or did you go right to expert?
So it's actually funny that you asked that question. When I started, when I kind of followed my brother into the sport, that's why he eventually quit. He got a truck and a girlfriend, and he was just like, I'm out of this.
Right.
And I just kept going to the track. I pretty much always race out of class. Even now, I don't usually have a class, but that's just how it goes. You stay in it because you love the sport, and I love racing all kinds of different people. It's so much fun. And as far as going up from novice to intermediate to expert, that's kind of a weird one because I started in the NBL and I didn't know any different, and I had to start in Supergirls. When I transferred to the ABA, I had to transfer in as a girl expert, just within racing from, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months ish, because you weren't allowed to, I guess they called it like class back down. So I've always been girl expert.
Wow.
Just from the beginning.
And have you ever raced cruiser?
Yes. Actually, a couple years into the sport, I got a cruiser, and I used to double class all the time, like a crazy person. And now every now and then I'll maybe think about double classing, but it's not really my thing anymore. I love cruiser. I have a cruiser, but my favorite thing is and will always be 20-inch. It feels so much more natural, I guess, to ride it because that's where I started.
How often do you look at the points to see where you're at, or you just don't care, you're out there having fun?
Hardly ever. I don't really care, to be honest. Points are great, but it's not really why I'm in the sport. I just can't wait to, put my tires in the gate and take off and learn something new and do better than I did the time before. And even off the track, I love it for the social aspect as well. Just talking to people, meeting people. There's such a great group of people in Northern California and pretty much all over, everywhere I've been, that race. And like, there's a really great group of ladies here too, who are just awesome and they support each other. Yeah, I don't really look at points.
I was gonna say, me and Shannon were talking about it too, like because we used to race when we were younger, and then we came back many years later and everything, and it was just like, bro, you noticed the love you got when we first were in it, and then when you came back, it was like we didn't even miss a week, as if the love was still right there, as if the time hasn't even passed. And that's the craziest thing with this sport is just like it just feels like family, whether you're coming or going or just visiting. They always just seem to show you love, and that's one of the reasons why I was like, what can we do to kind of get back to the sport and try to, shine some more light on an already awesome sport.
Yeah.
So,
when I was a kid, when I wanted to quit, my mother said, "Well, what am I gonna do on Friday night? Like that's where all of my friends are, and that's my thing." That I felt sorry for her, man. That's like, what should I keep racing so my mom has somebody to hang out with on Friday?
Your mom should just start racing.
Right?
What's that?
Said your mom should start racing.
Yeah.
She said she would have. I asked her recently. I said, if I needed you to race, or if there was like a few women that approached you and needed you to race to make a class, would you have? And she said, I think I would have. And I was like, I knew you would have. My mother's a little crazy like that, and she grew up with boys, so
Yeah. There's actually a really good handful of moms and kids that race. Courtney Karan, Cassandra Karan. There's so many, and it's really neat to be able to have that, to be able to grow up and be like, yeah, my mom races BMX with me. Like, how crazy is that? You know?
Right. One of our team managers, she's actually somebody that races, and she's in the so your class goes 4150, 4149.
4150. It's crazy.
Okay. And she falls into that class, and she's out there just having a blast with it. And I'm like, I lined up on her like a couple months ago and lined up in the game with her, and I was just coming back from everything mentally and physically, and I was just like, all right, just let her get in front a little bit, and then make her feel like she's doing something. Man, that gate dropped. I saw nothing but the back of her head. I was like,
yep.
She was calm. She didn't hesitate. I thought, oh, good Lord, she's fast.
She give you the elbow?
Right. Oh my gosh. So, but wanted to ask you too. So when you came back in the sport and as fast as you did when you came back this time, how long did you wait to clip in? Or did you come back in and just was clipping in?
So when I came right back into the sport, I immediately clipped back in. When I first started racing, I raced on flats for 4 years until my arch nemesis that I used to race every single week, we used to battle it out. We were racing on an indoor track in a national. It was like one of those covered tracks, and I think they had overwatered coming out of the first turn, and we all got bogged down in the mud. But she had put on clips, and she pulled right past me. So I knew it was time to go to clips, and I've been on ever since. And so when I started back, I was actually very, very scared and nervous. I didn't think that I would be able to. I mean, I didn't know if I could even ride a bike. I hadn't been on a bike for 10 years. It was just sitting in the garage collecting dust, and I was doing other things. But when I got back on it, I guess it turns out it's like riding a bike. Right. So right. I just kind of clipped right in, and it really wasn't a problem. It was just getting back like more of the conditioning and stuff.
So did you hop back on the bike that you left in the garage or wherever 10 years ago?
I did. I had a 20-inch Pro Concept that was actually a pro size frame, which for some reason didn't fit me. It was too short. So apparently I grew after 26. I don't know how that happened. But I came back and I raced a few nationals on it, had the little 1 3/8 inch tires that all the girls used back in the day.
Right.
Yeah. Nice. Went ahead and moved up a little bit in size on the bike.
So, I mean, obviously the competition has changed. Have you come across anybody that you used to race from back in the day, back in the sport now as you're an adult? Are they still around? Anybody?
That's actually funny that you asked that. I don't know if you know. Well, her maiden name is Shrimp, Afton Shrimp. She used to race back in the day when I started. When I started, the class was 17 and over girls, and she was just killing it in that class. And there was several other women as well, and it was actually neat because I was just at the SoCal Nationals, and she just started back racing. She's actually younger than me; she's in the class below me, but it was so cool to see her and to hang out. I want to say that a lot of the girls are kind of getting back into the sport, but there are also a lot of newer riders as well.
Right. What do go ahead, Shannon.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like the ones that have kids get dragged back to the track. You know, their kids may catch wind of mom used to race or dad used to race, and they're like, I want to try it, you know, and then the mom gets to the track and they're like, oh my God, it's like, you know, it sparks everything right back up. You want to get a bike, you want to race again. You want to show your kid what you used to do maybe, and, you know, have a moment with your son or daughter, you know. It's just so cool, you know. And like you said, sometimes you'll see, I have a friend, you know, he's the grandfather, and then he has his son races and the grandson races. So all three of them out at the track at any Friday night, you know, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's such a cool thing about the sport is that, you know, they always say, oh, nobody sits on the bench, but it's really great. There's several moms that I've kind of talked to recently, and they're just like, oh yeah, I got started because my kid was racing and I was really bored, to be honest, just, you know, and I started racing and, you know, they just loved it and they never wanted to put the bike down. So that's really the cool thing is that there's a class and a proficiency level for anybody out there.
Yeah, I mean, to be 50 years old and to look at what we do and to say, you know what, I think I could do that too. I'm going to grab a bike and try it, you know. Like, what other sport do they do that? You know, it's just, I love it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few years back, I was at a national in the Austin area in Pflugerville and got to talking to an older rider who had actually flown over from, I believe, England. And he must have been like 69, 70 years old. And he was just telling all kinds of crazy stories about the older cruiser men's class.
Wow.
And it was, it was crazy.
That was pretty cool. I think it's one of those things that if you don't stop, you don't, and you don't fall, you can just keep going. You can totally just keep going.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I mean, even some of these riders will have these really bad falls to the point where they'll need surgery, and they'll tell you, they say, I can't wait until I get back on a bike.
Right.
Hopefully they're letting their injuries heal and doing it the right way. But yeah, it's like that love of the sport just kind of transcends all that. So
speaking of that, what was your biggest injury?
So my actual biggest injury wasn't on a BMX bike. When I was little, I was in daycare, and I was always a big tomboy, and we were playing tag, and this kid was chasing me, and I turned around to see where he was and fell kind of backwards on my wrist and broke my wrist. And I managed to hide it for like a day and a half because I was always just kind of like, just walk it off. This is embarrassing. Wow. I can't believe I did it. Wow. And then burst out in tears, and I finally had to get a cast and everything. But my worst wreck in BMX, I think, was probably not on the track as well, but I was actually taking my cruiser to get it serviced, and down they have this little dip, and you can like kind of come back out, and I was doing that, and I went to get off my cruiser and kind of in slow-mo fell and twisted my ankle. I don't know, to be honest, I think it was kind of broken, fractured or something. Got it to the bike shop, turned it in, limped home, took off my shoe, wasn't able to put on a shoe again for probably about a month.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it was broken. Definitely sounds like it was broken.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
So did you ever get it checked out to see what it was? Or you just walked it off?
Well, originally I was just kind of like, I'll let the swelling go down because they can't really do an x-ray without that. But then every single day that the swelling went down, it actually got better. So I ended up not going in, even though that was kind of my plan.
That's crazy because, Shannon, he fell at Grand's last year, and he was at the hospital, just like a couple hours later, complaining about it. And he's actually hasn't raced that much this year because of it. And I just, it's like to give him crap about it because he's old and sensitive.
I mean, honestly, I feel like, you fall. I mean, it's nice to actually have a doctor tell you what's going on.
Right.
If I had it to do all over again, obviously I would have been more conscious of how tall the cruiser wheel is before getting off. But, if I had to do it all over again and it happened, I probably would have just gone in and gotten it looked at.
Of course.
Do you work on your own bike?
No, I don't. I'm actually lucky enough to have a really awesome bike shop with a mechanic who really specializes in BMX kind of down the street. I'm really, really good at taking my bike apart, putting it in a bike bag, and then putting it back together. I can get that done in like 10 minutes. But as far as really working on the drivetrain, anything like that, no. I used to work on my bike when I originally was racing BMX. I worked on my bike for about 8 years. I tried, and I always had a bike that, unless I took it in the shop, was either squeaking, something was rubbing. So I figured after 8 years, like, I gave it a gallant try. Let's just accept that I need to make it.
Are you running carbon wheels?
I do. I have carbon wheels on my cruiser and on my class bike. I've actually never had carbon wheels until just these recent builds. Okay. And I will say I'm a huge fan. I wasn't sure how I was going to like them. One bike, though, has disc brakes. The other one doesn't. And the disc brakes with the carbon are just amazing. If I had to do it all over or build another bike, that's what I would do.
That's what I try to tell people. I'm like, look, I love it. It is what it is. But I was out there at Rock Hill when it was raining. And like I was telling them the other day, I was like, got close to the finish line and I'm going full speed. And I went to grab a handful of brakes and it wasn't slowing me down. And so I was just like a train coming through, like, watch out. Yeah, I'm coming through.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, brakes obviously don't make you go faster, but when you need them to stop, you need them to stop. And when it's raining, it could be pouring down rain and disc brakes are going to stop you.
Yep.
So yeah.
Of course. So what gear are you running right now?
Did you race in the rain?
I've raced in the rain in Rock Hill and then in Nashville. Not my favorite. I'm not really kind of a mudder type of person, but it's fun. I don't hate it.
I think I would enjoy it on a dirt track, but with the tracks today, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
How often do you get to ride dirt tracks?
I'm sorry?
How often do you get to ride like an old dirt track?
Well, do you mean dirt track without the soil tack on it?
Well, yeah. That and then just no asphalt berms.
Oh, so we actually have a track in Roseville, which is closer to Sacramento. It's about an hour and a half away from me, and I'm in San Francisco. So with traffic, maybe 2 hours. But that's completely a dirt track, dirt turns. They don't have soil tack on it. They work so hard on that track, and that track is absolutely amazing. It's so smooth. I love it. Honestly, I can't wait to go back. And I was actually just there on Saturday racing.
Really? So you can run your regular tires and regular air pressure on that track?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, they literally, like, this track is amazing. For the fact that, like, there's no asphalt, there's no soil tack. Like, it's really good. They actually just redid the track. So it's always been kind of a technical track, but it's super, super technical now. So it's really fun.
Nice.
I was just about to ask you, how often do they redo the tracks that are like all dirt? Because I heard a few tracks like to have them like that so they can, change them up every couple of years, maybe.
Right. Well, I've been in California now for, I want to say, just a few months, over 2 years. And I believe that right before I moved up, my home track called North Bay BMX in Napa, I believe that they had redone it a little bit before that time. Oak Creek usually redoes it. And I may be totally wrong, but I think probably every couple years they redo it. I think that they said that this was probably the most technical track they've ever done.
Nice. Are you going to Rock Hill next week?
I am not going to Rock Hill, but I will be there in spirit, watching YouTube live and cheering everybody on. I was there actually a couple years ago racing. It was fun, but it was a late race. I don't think we raced until after midnight.
Oh yeah, that year. I remember that year.
That was crazy. That was crazy. Parents were waking up their kids from the car, and they were like, "Hey, you got to go race!" Like,
right, and they're just out there. They're like, "Huh? Oh yeah, I got this."
But amazing track. I mean, it's run so well. Like, I honestly can't wait to get back there again.
Now, but you are doing Grands this year.
Yes, I will be at Grands. It's gonna be fun. Last year I was there. I was the rider that ran into the turn official that was walking across the track. So that's where I'm setting my bar. Like, as long as I don't, actually run into anybody that's not, a turn official.
Right.
It's already a win. It's great.
So what is your favorite track?
That depends. That's a really hard question. I have a few. I really, really love North Bay BMX. It's a long track. It's a 1/4 mile long, so you will pedal. I love Oak Creek in Roseville. Blue Springs BMX in Blue Springs, Missouri is just a top-notch track. They're run kind of like a well-oiled machine, and that used to be my home track when I lived over in Kansas City area. So probably those three.
Which one did you find the most difficult out of all the tracks you've been to?
Difficult, probably technically wise, Oak Creek. But if you're not conditioned, probably Napa, because you're really gonna have to pedal.
Have you tried that? Was it Harvesty? The new track.
Just about to ask that.
No, I actually haven't gotten a chance to go there. So I've lived in Houston most of my life, and I was waiting for them to build that one in Houston, Rockstar, actually. And I was waiting, and I would every now and then I'd drive by and kind of check it out. And then I actually ended up moving to Kansas City 6 months before they opened.
Oh man!
So I haven't been there, and I haven't been to Hardesty.
So you went to Grands last year, you said. How did you like that gate? And was that the first time being on that type of gate?
So that was not my first time being on that type of gate. I think they introduced it, if I'm not wrong, maybe I'm wrong. I believe they introduced it last year. I think my first time riding it was Oregon, but I really, really love it. I mean, it's great. From a weight perspective, it's probably a lot easier for USA BMX to, haul that sucker up and carry it around. And then also, if you fall under it,
you won't die.
Less of a chance it's going to land on you. And if it does land on you, you don't have the weight of everybody else hitting, getting your arm or something like that stuck under there. So, and the gate holds you, and it goes down just as fast. So I love it.
So when it comes to Grands, what do you do in the downtime? Because I know there's tons of downtime.
There's lots of downtime with Grands. I sometimes walk around. I love to sit with my team. I race for daylight. They work really hard, and they have a really nice setup for everybody. And it's just really fun hanging out with everybody there. Everybody's so nice, and it's just good conversation with everybody. And then there's always the whole going back to the hotel room and chilling out and watching TV. So I guess I'm kind of boring.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. I was gonna say, hey, Shannon, was that the team that had the recliners and the TV?
A few teams had that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Daylight was the tent that kind of just grabbed me because they had all the daylights out. I mean, they had a ton of daylights out in front. They had a few up on the tables as like displays. And then I saw one of the older guys that ride. I'm not sure if he rides for Daylight or but Leslie Sanders.
Oh yeah, he rides for Daylight. He's awesome.
Rockstar. Yeah. So I saw him ride, and I knew he was probably in the age group I was going to be racing. So I wanted to introduce myself and check his bike out because he had a Daylight with OS 20 wheels that he converted. So I kind of wanted to ask him how he liked the conversion. He's like, man, get on it, take a ride, man. He was so cool. And then he was just telling me about just the Daylights and how they're made and just why he loves them. And so, yeah. I was like the one booth I spent some time at and looking at all the bikes, and they had a few for sale. And I was like, oh, these are so sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Leslie is so awesome. I think last year at Grands too, we had the projector that was projecting out the race as well. So that was kind of cool. Nice. Especially since, if you're nervous, you're always looking down to see what class they're on, and, so you don't go up there 4 hours early. But yeah, no, Daylight's super cool. Everything's custom. They'll even make custom sizes of frames. So it's kind of, whatever you can imagine they can do.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll do custom, front, back, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And then they'll do like solid, I guess, like one solid coat of, Cerakote. And then we also have a painter who does like all the crazy cool, like designs and stuff that are just too intricate for just the single.
Dang, that's pretty cool.
So your class and cruiser are both Daylights?
They are.
Very cool.
Now do you run both at Grands because of so much time's passed in between?
So I think I would, because of that, but I don't, only because I don't want to deal with two bikes going through the airport. Since we live so far from Tulsa now, we fly, and it's usually a connecting flight. So honestly, like two bike bags just seems like pure torture.
The stress would probably be crazy.
Do you hop on do you borrow somebody's cruiser so you can get like some cruiser practice in, even though you're not racing cruiser?
It's a good idea. I actually never thought of that.
That's what I did. It helps. It definitely helps.
Might have to ask somebody now.
I was going to say, when he said that, it reminded me of a story. We were at the National, and one of our buddies, Cameron Moore, he races, and he had his bike there and everything. And Shannon was like, how's that bike riding? He's like, go ahead and take it out there. So Shannon didn't even ride the bike, didn't do nothing, decided to go out there and race his moto. On a completely different bike.
That was the main I raced on his bike. And I race an OS 20, and he has a regular 20, which just feels totally different. He's
that must be like a razor scooter.
Yeah, I know. It was all stretched out and big bars, and I was like, I'm gonna die. Because I got on that thing just knowing that I won't go as hard because my ankle still wasn't healed 100%. So I'm like, I'm going to use his bike. That's going to force me not to really try to win. But the gate went down, and he's trying to win.
Yeah.
But it was fun though. Like, so every moment of that race, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. I hit my pedal on one of the turns, and it was just a mess. I was all over the place. I still took a third though, but it was like I was never do that again, ever.
That's taking a podium the first time on somebody else's bike. That's pretty badass.
Right.
And the funny part is, I told Everett I was watching that race the other day, and because I used his bike, when I crossed the finish line, it actually displayed his name.
Nice.
He was like 51, 55 intermediate Cam Moore. They're probably like, what the hell is going on here?
Does that mean he's going to let you borrow his bike again this year?
I don't want to. I'm not doing that again. That's stupid.
Some more advertisement.
Right? Yeah, I guess, right?
So when it comes to the gate, do you listen to it or are you watching it?
I like to watch the light. I listened for a really long time, and that's great. I think it really comes down to kind of the individual rider. It's sort of like if you watch everybody's gates, lots of people do like little things kind of differently. But for me, what works is watching the light.
So what do you do like as you're bringing your bike into the gates? Like, you have like a certain amount of breaths you take, and do you like say a prayer? Do you have a good luck charm? Like,
To be honest, I used to do all kinds of deep breathing, and I used to give myself these like self-talks and everything. For most of my life, I actually had severe uncontrolled anxiety. So getting to big races like the Grands and Nationals and really even local races, it was just like my heart would be in my throat, my hands would be sweaty. It was just horrible. And the thing is, I love the sport. So I knew it wasn't logical. It didn't have anything to do with, people I was racing, the track, anything like that. It was just anxiety. And so I actually started getting that treated last year. And it's been completely different. So now, as before, when I would do different things like that, now, honestly, when I get on the gate, like, it's just fun. Like, I really don't have anything that I do in particular. I get up there and do my job.
Wait, so are you saying that the butterflies are gone when you're up there too?
Yeah, butterflies are gone. I don't feel nervous at all.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still got that. I feel like a kid when I get up there, and I'm like, I just feel like that's the part that I enjoy. That, and like at the end when like the adrenaline is still going through and you're still shaking a little bit, you're like, man, I was going fast. And then I look over and they're like, no, you weren't. I'm like, oh, all right.
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I you still get that adrenaline going. It's just not, you don't have that like fight or flight reaction, kind of an overkill anymore. And that's what I really enjoy.
I mean, for me, it pretty much starts like the night before, and I start thinking about it, and I'm like, oh God, man, And the morning of, it's bad. It's like I wake up, I'm like, oh, today's race day. I should be excited. Like, then I got to switch it over. It's like, man, I'm blessed to be able to do this at my age and just, have cool people around. And, so then I start getting into that mode. Like, man, I'm about to go have some fun, man. Snap out of it,
Exactly. I mean, when it comes right down to it, it's fun. It's an extracurricular. You're there because you want to be there. Yeah. And so as much as you're obviously going to get out there and try 100%, 110%, but the very, very bottom line is you need to want to be there. You need to have fun. And so, I try to do things that, even though there's long wait, et cetera, just keeping it fun, being there for the social aspect, talking to people, even getting some downtime to just chill in the hotel room. I remember my very first Grands, I had been racing for 6 months. My dad and I, we drove to Tulsa from Houston, and, we were very just kind of realistic about it. He was like, you're not going to make your main. Let's just see like where your competition is. So we know, how much faster you need to get.
Right.
And oh gosh, I got on the track. I raced, I didn't qualify out. of just the first couple rounds. And I did okay, I guess. I didn't fall, but I completely blacked out. I was so nervous. I remember being there. I do not remember being on the track. Like, we have photos, but like, I don't remember any of it.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Every year you go, it just kind of gets a little better.
Can you hear what's going on when you're racing? Can you hear the announcer? Can you hear people cheering for you?
It depends.
Okay.
Last year at Grands, the way that the design was, when we were going down the third straight, because people were actually like pretty close to that straight, like standing by the finish line yelling, I could hear that. A lot of the times I can't hear anything.
I always ask people that because I could hear, and it kind of helps. Like if the announcer is a good announcer and he's telling you who's around, and or like somebody's coming up or in the hip pocket, or about to make a move. It's like, hold on, who's making a move? It's like, so you can hear that sometimes. It could help possibly,
Oh, it's great. I think the thing that gets me more is when you can actually hear what's going on around you, and you're racing, and all of a sudden people start screaming, and you're just kind of like, oh my God, like what's going on? Is someone passing me? Like, what do I need to do?
Right.
Like, that freaks me out more than anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one thing that cracks me up is when you're riding and somebody like you come over and then the guy behind you comes over at the finish line is like, you cut me off, and I'm like, I can't see behind me, bro. I just saw it. I'm like, it's my bad. I'm like, I'm totally apologizing. Like, I didn't mean to. it's not like I looked down, saw any times. Like, there he is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not out there. We're not out there to actually kill each other. But it is racing, and that track is free game for everybody, and you do want to get first. That's what you're going for. So sometimes you have to take somebody else's line.
Yeah, then when you're intermediate, you could use that as an excuse. Like, bro, we're intermediates. What you expect? We ride sideways. It's just what we do.
True.
I'm not skilled yet, man.
Right. Unless you're at Grands, those intermediates, they're kind of like experts.
Tell me about it.
The expert intermediates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. we talk about that all the time, and we actually look up some of the riders that we raced, and I'm like, look at this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or we have the guys that are like number 2 in their state in cruiser, have like 6,000-7,000 points, and they actually podium at nationals in cruiser, but then they're racing intermediate, So, come on,
Absolutely. And don't even get me started on the novices. I'm like, you guys should have been moved up to intermediate. Like, I don't know why your track hasn't moved you up.
Right. I was gonna say, I saw somebody last year. This dude was manual and everything and jumping, and I was like, novice.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. Like you said, we're out there to have fun, and they let it go through. So we just do what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, I do understand it because you got to play the game sometimes. If everybody else is doing it, why would you go ahead and move yourself up?
Right.
So I guess when it comes down to it, everybody's on sort of a even playing field once you get people that are all, they kind of should be moved up, but they're not.
Right.
You're still kind of racing, people that are your speed.
So how do you manage to train, work your job, and BMX? How do you manage to just juggle all three of those and still be, I guess I'd say as highly ranked as you are right now, which you don't know, but as highly ranked as you are right now, how do you manage to do all that and still be great at what you do?
So it's a little bit of just kind of organizational skills, honestly. I think, working full time and then taking anything on, it really kind of gives you that. You kind of have to work on it, but it gives you that ability to have like really good, good organizational skills throughout the week. I do work remote 99.9% of the time, so that helps a lot. Usually when I train, it's an hour away from the city. When I race, it's at least an hour away from the city. And getting across the Bay Bridge during the week, you have to get across by maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, or else you're not going to be able to get across it. So usually I take my lunch hour to then go to an area where I can work out closer, or, I'll camp out at the park next to the track and work remotely there. So it's kind of really a lot of like juggling stuff around, but I'm kind of used to it.
Nice.
That's awesome. You get to do that. Like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, some people are stuck inside of a building for 9 hours a day, and that, they may get a lunch break to do some sprints, but that's it,
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like I feel like anybody who's trying to like juggle any kind of work and any kind of training, like that's just really inspirational. I think that probably was the one good thing that came out of COVID was the ability to be able to work remote and to change a lot of, bosses and company owners' minds on the fact that we can be, just as productive, not sitting in an office or more so.
Right.
So yeah.
Did all your tracks shut down during COVID?
So at the time that COVID happened, I had actually moved to Kansas City, and then about 6 months later, COVID happened. And, Kansas and Missouri didn't seem to really care as much about spreading this disease. So the tracks were closed down for a couple months, and then they kind of found a workaround and opened the tracks. They did put stuff into effect where it was like both of our tracks are in public parks, and one of them, it was like nobody could, actually I think it was both of them, nobody could come inside the actual small gate that was around the track except for riders. You had to keep your helmet on, which I don't know what good that does.
Right, I'm like, I remember that.
But, there was really workarounds. I did hear that people in California, the tracks were closed down for a long, long time. I, on kind of a personal note, I actually had a really good friend who I actually met randomly online, and we actually got to be actual friends, and we talked every day for about 3 years. And he was a runner, but he was always just super encouraging kind of with everything. And we just chatted about all kinds of stuff. And he had depression, and he took his life in 2020. And at that time, we were quarantining. And when that happened, I was just kind of like at that point where it was like, I need to get out of the house because I can't do this anymore. I can't deal with this right now. So we started driving to nationals that were outside and, popping up our little easy up and stuff kind of far away, and, going up there to race, coming back, and just trying to be smart about it while, getting some socialization, I guess you would say, in. And that helped a lot.
That's really good.
And I'm sure it helps with kids also, but realizing as I'm getting older, the track is such therapy, and I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
So I know it does good for kids also. They just might not know it, how it's affecting them. But that's why I think BMX is so awesome. Or just riding a bike, even if you don't race. I know people that come to the track just for practice. They don't even race, and they probably don't even plan to. They just want to stay in shape. They love riding the bike. They have fun trackside, with all the older guys. And, I just think it's so awesome. As a kid, it was just different. I went there with my mother. She kind of dealt with all the adult stuff. Now I'm the adult, and I get to see what's going on. Some of it's a little crazy, but it's just so cool. Some of the people that you'll meet, and even being older, sometimes I think like, at this age, am I ever going to meet like any really good friends that might last, past, BMX, and I think so, I met some really cool people, some really good people,
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. It was, I kind of liken it to, when I went to college and joined a sorority, it was like, you meet people that you normally wouldn't meet in your everyday life going to your classes because they may not be in your classes, or you may just walk past them and not know them. So it gives you kind of like this way to kind of like get out, meet different people, and you all have this like common thing that you just love to do. Speaking of, I actually made a friend when I moved up here who she races BMX. She raced back in the day as well, and kind of started back again because her kids started racing. She decided to start racing too, and we became friends. And then later, through social media, we found out that we were sorority sisters. So that was actually kind of
get out of here. That's awesome.
Small world right there.
Very small world.
That's crazy. Have you ever done like a Worlds? Like have you gone to like Worlds and raced there too?
I have not. And I think it just comes down to the fact that I don't want to pay for it. And then also like I would rather just cheer people on. And then, just flying out of the country. I just personally, I just would rather be a tourist, backpack around, really see things versus, flying over and seeing a track. and like I said, I love cheering on every single person that's going to Worlds. Like, I think it's awesome. And I think it's really great that it's going to be in the United States next year. And so at Rock Hill. And so I'm going to have fun cheering everybody on there as well.
Be able to go. Yeah. Get front row seat.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the people trying to go to Worlds that absolutely have no chance at doing anything, and they're setting up GoFundMes and grabbing people's money and then taking trips?
He gonna go there with it.
You read my Facebook rant, didn't you? I think honestly, like Worlds is, like you said, if you're saying, well, they have absolutely no chance. They do make Worlds open to everybody. If you qualify just like everybody else, you deserve to go. As far as the GoFundMe thing, it's just hard because I feel like GoFundMe's kind of evolved into a way that, people use it for unexpected expenses, like funeral expenses, hospital expenses, things that are like, are either going to bankrupt them or they're in an absolute, emergency. I feel kind of like, when you're asking for money to go to Worlds, especially on, you're on an amateur level, don't ask somebody else to fund your BMX vacation. Like,
I'll buy a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what you're doing, if you're selling t-shirts, exactly. You're selling candy bars, you got a plan where that you can just, this is what I'm doing to get my money right for it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no problem. I could do that. Yeah. But it's just like when you're just asking for a handout, it's like, bro, I'm not paying for your vacation. Like, I can't go. You can't go.
And it's not even the whole, well, I'm not going, so I don't want you to go thing. It's just more of like, yeah, exactly. If you're selling something, if you're getting out there and like, fundraising, absolutely 100%. I will be the first one to like step up and buy something from you. Right. But, on the other hand, it's kind of like, hey, like, I want to go to this other country. Can you just give me money and better base? And it's like, okay, let's be realistic here.
I know, right? I'll go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was gonna say, and if I felt like your kid did have a chance at podium, then I would, even without the fundraising. I might chip in and say, "Yeah, listen, man, we want him to do good. Good luck." But like when your kid can't even like make a main at a local, and now you want to go to Worlds, it's like, come on now, stop.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kids that are going to Worlds, that have GoFundMes, I think that's a little different. I think it's great. Like they'll have a GoFundMe. So I feel like it's a lot of family members that will donate, that will help. Especially for that kid to go with their parents. That's a memory that they're never ever going to forget. I mean, they're kids, like they don't have full-time jobs. They're not.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They're not like, putting money aside, a year in advance, because most people know, okay, I'm going to go to the World a year in advance. I have a year to save up.
Right.
Right. So I feel like, when you're talking about kids going and starting GoFundMes, I think that's a totally different thing.
Right. Of course. Yeah. That makes sense. I was gonna say, and it's weird too, because like when you certain adults, I'm always like, let me get this straight. You can't afford to go to Worlds. You're gonna do a GoFundMe, but you just raced the 3 last nationals, which was fun. It was probably a couple $100 easily. Like, okay, I see where this is going. Well, I gotta stay sharp. I'm like, that ain't it, there, Sparky.
No, and that's kind of where it stems from too. It's like, you're asking for, funding this completely optional trip that you're taking.
Right.
Just like I said, you're not selling anything. You're just asking for money to fund it, which is, hey, fine. If you want to donate to someone, do it. But personally, the way I feel is like, if you're going to do that and then you're going to continue to spend money on, other nationals, other extracurricular activities, other trips, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Do you have a favorite food that you like to eat before races?
Honestly, not really. I honestly don't have a favorite food to eat before races.
Do you eat before races?
Mostly, I just bring a bunch of snacks to the track, and then I severely underestimate the amount of food that I need to eat. And then I get really, really hungry. And then I go to the snack shack and I buy literally whatever they're selling.
Right.
Still learning. It's only been probably 14 years.
So I was gonna say, yeah. So I'm a big guy, so I get it. Like as soon as I know that first moto's over, and I know I got a couple hours, I'm like, they're like, where you going? I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a double cheeseburger and some fries and get a soda or something. They just look at me like, you're not gonna, and I'm like, no, this is how I prep. I got this. If I get it in early, I'll be all right when it comes time for racing.
Didn't you like eat ice cream and some like a couple slices of pizza? And
yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I don't care. It's a lifestyle, Shannon. It's a lifestyle.
Lifestyle. Yeah, no, exactly. I don't know. I can't really. I'm not one. I've met people with that saying that they can't eat at all before a race. I've always been someone that can. Obviously, I'm not going to stuff myself, so I'm going to throw up on everybody when I finish. But usually having a burger or something like that. Like I'd rather be full than I get really low blood sugar, and so there's been lots of times where I get on the gate and like my fingers are numb, and I'm seeing kind of spots, and it's hard to balance. That part of the racing isn't fun.
Well, maybe not now because you say you have your nerves more under control. But have you ever been in the chute and had to go to the bathroom?
Oh my gosh, yes. When I first started back, it was at Grand's, and I was like, oh, I have to pee so bad. And my friend Stacy Patton, who she raced back in the day, she was kind of like the top of, her class. She was just awesome. She actually came back, and it was cool because I got to race her. She saw me kind of bouncing around, and she's like, girl, you have time. Just go to the bathroom. And so, I left my bike with her, and I ran to the bathroom, ran back because I thought I was going to be late. Turns out we were still sitting in the same place.
I'm just thinking about that. I almost missed one of my motos. I think I almost missed like my quarter or my semi. It was one of those. So I waited to the last minute thinking I had time. And by the time I got to staging, my group was already in the chute. I was like, whoa, bro. Like, so, I mean, it was still like probably a couple of minutes before that moto went. It wasn't like that close, but it was way, way closer than I wanted it to be.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking around for the guys that I know I raced, and I'm like, hold on, where's everybody at? Oh, my God, my heart starts beating. I'm like, yo, what's going on here? And I see them in the chute, and then they were like, yeah, you're in the chute. I'm like, oh, my God, like that would have been so terrible.
Oh, yeah. That's my worst nightmare is missing my moto for most likely something stupid,
Have you ever had a blowout on the track while you're racing?
A tire blowout?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Nice. I've actually never had a blowout. I popped my tire once at the track because I ran over a sticker burr, but it was just kind of during like a training session, so I kind of got lucky with that. But nope, no blowout on the track. I've heard them though. I've heard them.
Right.
Have you had any other mechanical issues?
No, probably my issues are all just me. Actually, one time I did wreck a long time ago after racing. I had been racing a few years at that point. I crashed in the rhythm section at a local. When I got up, my stem and headset had twisted, so my bars were kind of like sideways. And so I still wanted to finish and beat people. So I grabbed my bike and started just like running through the rhythm section, and every kind of like, rhythm part, I would just like fall on my face again. And I did that like 4 or 5 times till my dad came up and was like, just get off the track.
Oh man.
Oh, I was bawling. I was
like, what is so close?
Yeah. It was only two straightaways to go like that.
So I was saying when Shannon broke his ankle, they're like, you want to ride the finish your lap. He was like, yeah, let me do that. And he tried to put a little weight on it. And it was just like, ah.
Yeah, he's like,
my bars
maybe
are twisted
not.
Also, but I was ready to ride it out. That's what riders do, right? We finish our laps, so.
Yeah, just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's already dirt on it.
Right. I was going to say, when I broke my ribs, I ended up getting face down. And so I was laying there, and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, let me just catch my breath. I'm going to need like a minute or two because I'm a big dude. And I'm like, all right. And so they're like, all right, can you get up? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get up. Only my head was moving. I was like, and they're like, can you move your legs? And I was like, oh, yeah, I can do that. I just had nothing left in me to turn over. So, yeah.
Just everything in between.
Right. So, so I was just laying there. And they're like, where's your phone? And I'm like, it's in the car. And they're like, okay, where's your keys? I'm like, in my pocket. what's your girlfriend's phone number? I'm like, I don't know her number.
It's on the phone.
It's on the phone. So yeah, they had to call her. They had to call her on. They got a hold of her on Facebook and was like, "Everyone's on his way to the hospital. You might want to meet him there." And so I thought it'd be really cool when I got to the hospital. They're like, "Well, what exactly happened?" And I was like, "There was these huge doubles, and I tried to jump over them, and they're just looking at me like, oh, okay." And then my girlfriend's like, "You ain't try to jump no doubles," and I was like.
Oh, she calls you out wearing the hospital.
Right. I'm like, okay, it was the first turn. I slid a little bit and the bike was shaking. I'm like, but the double story sounds like a better story, right? And they're like, yeah, you should definitely go with that one. I was like, all right, see, now there we go.
Exactly. And see that does open up another topic as far as just having medics and having people like that there. Right. I would say that a lot of the times, they're really just kind of like on point with that. Yes. I was actually at a Canadian race earlier this year where a girl was knocked out, could not get up. Well, obviously she couldn't get up. She was knocked out. They kind of put up some privacy blankets for her, but from what I was told is that area in Canada, they were very, very low on EMTs and ambulances. So there was actually a good 20 to 30 minute wait. Wow. Before they can get an ambulance in to get her to the hospital, and then, you hear other stuff of, people falling on the track and, they're laying there, they're not moving. And someone on the track is trying to, take off their helmet. I'm not an EMT. I don't know, but it's just kind of like, ooh, like some of the things that I see, I'm like moving this person and they can't move on their own right now. So yeah, some of that stuff can get pretty scary.
Yeah. I just remember I was so mad because I just got my new Yes jersey when they put me in the ambulance and he was like, "We're gonna have to cut this off." And I was like, "No, just no. Tell me to lift it up." They're like, "No, dude, we got to cut this off of you." And I was just sitting there like, "Please don't. I just got this thing." So I got a cut up jersey hanging somewhere. But yeah, I was so mad. I was more mad about that. Right. I was more mad about that than anything else. But
yeah, I've heard that.
Right. I mean, and the cool thing I say about BMX too is because there's a video of my crash and everything. The two guys that I was racing, as soon as I went down, they were literally on the next jump. They both just stopped, turned around, and came back to me. And I was just like, that's the love that I was, because I always tell you never look back. But these two guys just stopped, came back, and was like, hold on, he's down.
They were coming to beat you up, bro. I had to stop you. You didn't know that. I didn't tell you that. They were coming to jack you up, bro.
He can get up, hit his pockets.
No, I mean that's honestly that's what I love about this sport. I mean, the bottom line, it's a race. I mean, you line up on the gate, and everybody wants to be first to the finish line. But there's also that sportsmanship in there that I love so much. To where there's so many people that just understand that sportsmanship, and when something like that happens, they're thinking enough to just be like, what? No, I'm going to stop and check on this person.
Right.
That's awesome.
So how much gear do you wear as far as protective padding?
So I wear all the padding. I wear knee pads, and I either wear a chest protector with elbow pads, or I wear a long sleeve chest protector that has built-in elbow pads with it. Don't really wear the shoulder pads or the back part that comes in them because those are super bulky. I mean, they would obviously help in a crash. But yeah, I definitely wear those. And then wearing flats, I've been starting to get in the habit of wearing shin pads as well. And then obviously gloves and helmet.
Maybe a good idea with the shin pads, man. Oh,
pads are they can be annoying, but it's just something that you get used to. And honestly, it's you don't need them. You don't ever need them until that one time when you fall. And you're really grateful for them. So I always kind of... Right. Tell a lot of people that aren't wearing pads, hey, get your pads on. You're going out there on the track, especially when you've got all the you're working on your experience level and you start getting a little bit faster. Well, it's you're getting faster, so if you crash, you're going to crash a little harder most likely. So it's you want to have that protection. I mean, and if anything else, it saves you from having to get a shower with road rash, because that really sucks.
That's the worst. Oh God.
Right. How did you out of all the companies out there, how did you end up linking up with Daylight?
So before Daylight, I actually raced for S Squared, and at that time I was considering getting into racing a cruiser, and it was kind of perfect timing because my boyfriend, he was drunk, and we were talking about it, and he's like, you can get anything you want for Christmas. So I was joking. I said, well, how about a Daylight? And so he agreed to it. And so, he was a man of his word. So he ended up getting me one for Christmas. I wasn't sure what size to get. And so I actually spoke on the phone with Richard Huvard, and he put me in contact with Katie Piatti. And she actually worked with me a lot to figure out like what size, cruiser I needed. Right. And from there, Katie and I became friends and kind of got to know the rest of the team. And, I ended up getting off S Squared for, a different reason. And I had, pitted with Daylight a few times, and they were just nice, awesome people that I loved hanging out with. Like the vibe there is just really nice, cool, laid back. Everybody, is just fun and,
seems like
good conversations. And so eventually I was asked to be on the team. And then when I moved to San Francisco, it became official. So
there we go.
Long story short.
Do you ever pick Harry Larry's brain on some stuff?
I've spoken with him online, and we comment on each other's stuff sometimes. But I actually have not been to a national that he's been at so far. I think we just haven't like linked up there, but hopefully soon. Hopefully at Grands.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll probably see him at Grands.
Yeah.
That's funny because I met him at Burlington when he came, and so a few of my friends actually invited him to their house for dinner. So they all went to dinner, So we ended up talking for the few days he was there. And so then when I went to Grands, I remember I was up at the gate and I heard somebody say, yo, I turned to the side and Harry Leary was like, yo, like, I was like, get out of here, So I just remember looking at the other guys and they're looking at me like, who the hell are you, bro? It was just too funny. And it was just funny that he remembered me, from, I don't know, it was only a few months before that, but, it was just cool for him to say, what's up, bro? Good luck. And,
Oh, yeah. All my interactions with him has just been really cool. Like, he's a genuinely, like, amazing person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's been around forever. I mean, forever.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was pretty cool. Jen, you got anything else that you want to go over? I feel like we hit everything.
We can go on forever, bro.
This has been a good conversation.
Yeah. That's how we just try to keep it nice and relaxed.
Do you change your gearing? Like, I know obviously so we're at Rock Hill versus like your home track. Would you change your gears or you just run what you got all year and leave it where it's at?
Normally I run what I got all year. There was a point where I was changing gears and it was just bad. Because it takes a while to get used to certain gearing, especially with your timing on the gate and everything else. Right. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with changing gears. I think that can help some people. For me personally, it doesn't help me. So I just like to stay on the same gear all the time.
And how often do you train?
I train weekly. I train 5 to 6 days a week.
I'm trying to get him to go to the track tomorrow. And he's like, I don't want to drive out there twice. All right. I'm trying to get great. And he's holding me back.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, definitely takes up a lot of driving time. And it takes a lot of gas. So that's definitely just a lot of dedication to do it. But like I said in the beginning, bottom line, it's fun. I actually love the training aspect of it. Kind of like you were talking about how some of the kids go out to the track just to ride. I think even if I couldn't race anymore for whatever reason, I would still train. I would still ride. It's just fun knowing that, you're working to get better than you were yesterday, that you're doing something good for yourself, and that also you're just getting out and talking to people. Right. Touching grass, as people would say.
So here's an interesting one because hopefully it'll make you think because so far everybody else has because it made me think for a minute too. When you're racing, are you breathing on a certain technique or do you hold your breath or Like, how do you know what you're, or do you not even really notice what you're doing when you're racing?
So when I race, I don't hold my breath. I don't think that's a good idea, because by the time you get to the finish line, especially in a long track, your muscles need oxygen. You need oxygen in your body, especially if you're doing some kind of like really high intensity sprint sport like that.
Right.
Usually towards the end, I'm breathing pretty heavily there.
Right.
Right. If you're not breathing heavily, just
right. Because that's when I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how should I be breathing up the track? And like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, lately when I'm racing, before I hit the 2/3 mark, I'm like, I'm out of gas. Like, I got nothing in the tank, and I'm just watching everybody. They were already in front of me, but now I'm watching the gap get bigger, and I'm like, they're like, well, how's your breathing? And I'm like, I don't think I've ever thought about it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe you're holding your breath, and then when you're starting to release it right around there or something. And I was just like, maybe. I'm like, so they're just like, start there. And that's why I was like, let me try asking people, people who ride a little bit more serious than I do, and get their input on it.
Yeah, you may be holding your breath down the straights and then breathing in the turns when you're not pedaling.
Right.
But it's just not enough. You need to get that oxygen in. So it'd be good, the next time you practice or you're doing full laps to, kind of
practice.
Be cognizant of your breathing. And then, after a while, it'll just be, you'll just do it automatically. You're not really thinking about it.
Right. That's probably what I would do if my buddy over here, whatever, meet me at the track so we could practice together. Mm-hmm. But, he keeps holding me back.
Oh,
if you ever practice, if you decide to ever start practicing, bro, I'm there for you, man. That's just to let you know.
And you know what's weird?
He goes to a race and doesn't even practice. He's like, yeah, my first. He said my first lap is my practice lap.
My first moto is my practice lap. I like to see where everybody's at.
I went to a race with him. We're at a Gold Cup qualifier, and I said, bro, let's get suited up. Let's practice. He said, I don't practice. I said, what are you talking about? You don't practice? He said, nah, bro, my first lap is my practice lap. I said, stop playing, man. Get your stuff on. Like, let's go. That's serious. He sat down, and I was like, bro, this dude, and people were like, nah, he doesn't practice, bro. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Do you remember Wayne's World?
Yeah.
I'm not worthy.
Oh, well, I'm not winning. I'm just not practicing. I know where it's at. Trust me, I know exactly where
Go from 0 to 100. Don't
right. Like I took a lap when we were in Derby City, and it was the first round. And I get out, and then Cam Moore, he was over there by our tent, and he looks at me and he goes, dude, I think you might have pedaled twice that first lap. He's like, you didn't pedal at all. And I was like, you noticed that too? And he was just like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's usually how that is. I'm just seeing what they bring to the table. But second round, I'm like, I know exactly who I got to go after. So I'm going to follow. Yeah.
No, this is great. I think you should start a segment called follow me for more tips, or like Everett's tips. Just kind of sneak that in just every now and then.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. See.
And once they catch on and know they need to do exactly opposite what he's telling them to do, then it'll work. It'll start working.
When was the last time you went? Don't worry about that. Just follow the tips. So, but that's pretty cool. I just still can't believe. So wait though. So your first bike that you said you got Frankenstein. What frame was that again?
Which one?
Your very first one.
When you started my very first one. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, my very, very first one, when I started out, I inherited my brother's bike because he grew and got a new frame. He got a yellow TNT, and I inherited his 1996 Chromoly Free Agent Ambush.
Ooh,
and he made, some custom Erin stickers for me. So instead of Free Agent, because, by then the stickers were kind of beat up, it said Erin in like blue, and then it had like a bunch of like purple anodized parts, like purple anodized Answer handlebars, nuke-proof carbon hubs. Eventually, it was like my precious. I love that bike so much.
So here's the kicker. That bike got away from you, didn't it?
The bike got away from me?
Yeah, you don't have it. Do you still have it? What?
I have the frame. So nice. I ended up going to I think right after that, I went through several frames. Like I would buy, back in the day, I was in high school and college, so I would save up and I'd get like secondhand frames. I think I went through like Powerlight, a couple of other ones, a red line. So the parts kind of went, with the new build, but I actually have that frame and that headset and that stem, and it's in Houston in my dad's shed right now, and I will never give that frame away.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. I mean,
95% of the people we asked, they're like, I don't know what happened to it.
They're like, it's just gone, right?
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool. You're like one of the first ones that I've come across that are like, oh yeah, I still got mine.
It was a special frame because it just marked a point in my life where, I went from really feeling like I didn't fit in anywhere, kind of being bullied in high school, being extremely quiet and shy, just kind of awkward, an awkward kind of feeling teenager, to, getting this thing that I love doing so much that just made me feel kind of like electric and happy. And I would learn something every single day on it, and sometimes I would just go ride around for hours, and at that time we had a lot of, I guess like ditches or bayous or whatever you would call it in Houston, and the outskirts of Houston. So, I'd be on back roads and riding these like dirt trails everywhere, and just sometimes I'd go out and do that for just hours, and it was awesome, being able to just be on a bike for a ton of hours every single day to go to school and get done with school and come home from my high school and just get on the bike. I think even though I did start racing at 17, I think having so much time on a bike, as much time as I did, really helped as far as the technicalities and like muscle memory and such.
100%, I agree.
And you almost quit for good.
Right? You thought you were done.
No.
Yeah.
It's just like I said, it's an amazing thing, and you get up there and like you just get, to me, it's just, I get the goosebumps and like the energy levels when I'm up in the gate, and I'm just like, man, this feels like Christmas to me. Like,
absolutely. I mean, I feel like life is too short not to do what you love. When my friend Kyle passed, that was, he represented us in first Olympics. He was just an amazing rider, but an even more amazing person. And I remember having been out of the sport probably, I don't know, 8 years maybe by then, 9, I don't know. But I remember I think I was in college at the time-ish or somewhere. My dad called me and just told me to sit down and told me what had happened. And then, after that, kind of his funeral and everything kind of got me thinking that I really wanted to do that again.
Right.
I didn't want to kind of, go any longer without. I really missed it.
Right.
And then it took about 2 years after that to really get up the courage to get back on the track.
Nice. And you're back and killing it.
And
So
I'm
that's pretty
back,
cool.
having fun, meeting awesome people. I can't say enough about, honestly, like the people in the BMX community. Like, they're just absolutely amazing and so incredible and so interesting and just so inspirational. So hope to continue doing this for quite some time.
Do you have a track nemesis?
A track nemesis. Anybody who gets up on the gate with me.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, as far as having, no, I don't.
If you don't have one, we can create one for you.
Right?
No, it's so much fun racing. I mean, even locally, it's like there's so many fast people out here. I know that. Really, it's like whoever I get, it's a huge challenge. And that's okay. You don't win every race out there. It doesn't mean anything. You don't lose every race, but you don't win every race either.
Right. That's the best part of it.
That's absolutely the best part of it. I don't think I'd want to be out there winning all the time. What's the point? I see a lot of younger kids who get really, really, really good, to the point where, they're half a straightaway ahead of everybody else. And I guess after a while, it's like they're just bored. They want some more of a challenge. So
Right.
Yeah.
So
Lots of track nemesis.
We've seen kids get so many first places. When they get a second place, they starting to cry.
Mhm.
Like, honestly, they get to the finish line and they're just bawling it out. Like, they don't even understand what second place is.
They don't, and honestly, like it's a learning experience for them, because they're used to it. they feel that, oh, if I get second place, I've just failed. I'm not a very good rider anymore. And it's like, nope, that's not true. And it's just a really good learning opportunity, and, an opportunity for their parents to really talk to them about, learning about sportsmanship and how they feel about themselves after they've given 100%, even if they don't get the place that they want.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because you have those types of parents, but then you have parents that's like, man, we're not going to accept anything but first place.
Yes.
Get over there, shut up. You just got second, you're a loser. Like we talk about this all the time, like some of those parents that are just out of control and just trying to live through their kids. And it's like, they're 7 years old, they're novices. Like, come on, man, stop it.
Oh, yeah. I was at a national in Oregon last year, and I was riding around trying to get ready. I was warming up, Everett. And, I saw this kid. He was just sitting there. He was off his bike, and he was just bawling. And I came up to him and asked, what's wrong? And he said, well, I didn't do well. And, we talked a little more. And he said, well, my parents are going to kill me. And I said, do your parents race? And he said, no. And I said, exactly. I said, they can't do what you can do.
Yep.
So, we talked a little more, and he was okay, and he left. But it's like, to have a kid that, gives 100%, even if they're scared and they back off and they keep going. I mean, that's still, they're trying hard to then get off the track and just have a breakdown because they think they're going to get yelled at. I mean, there's no point to that.
I mean, even if you were a parent that races and you understand racing, like, there's no good it's going to come out of that. You yelling at your kid that he did bad. You explain to him how he could do better. I mean, they don't understand that they're going to have relationships with their kids after BMX is over with, and they're just like ruining it. And now their kids don't want to race. The kids hate their parents. Like, we see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, sometimes the parents are so clueless. They're like, I don't know what I did wrong. It's like, bro, you're yelling at your kid all the time. He doesn't want to come to the track.
You're taking the fun out of it.
Safe space, his place to play. This is his playground, and you're just ruining it for everybody,
Yeah.
Just creating this weird vibe, and it's just not cool. Eventually they stop showing up, but it's like, what are they doing?
Absolutely. I mean, there's obviously I didn't race as a young kid, but I've seen kids come up in the sport, and it's like some of these kids, they'll have friends for life. I mean, you see them with their marriage announcements, and their childhood BMX friends are there in their bridal party and all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't happen for everybody, but then also I do know that there are some parents out there that will absolutely tell their kids, like, you can't be friends with these people. They're not your friends. And again, it's that whole understanding of sportsmanship. It's just, I feel like bottom line, it comes down to sportsmanship. It comes down to talking to your kid and, having them understand, okay, you don't have any friends on the track at all. It doesn't mean that they're your enemy. They're just rider A, B, C, and D. Like, you're trying to make moves against them. It's
right. It's not personal.
Exactly. But then when you get off the track, and I know there are some instances, obviously, of dirty riding that can carry off the track, but when you get off the track, you're friends. You're not competitors anymore. You're done. You're breathing heavy. You're trying to fist bump each other. You're not enemies anymore. You can be friends.
Exactly.
Off the track.
Even if you're on the same team, it's like, we're on the same team, but it's not like we're both going to just go 1 and 2. Like, we're both trying to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say yelling at your kid after a race. I mean, if you want your kid to quit the sport, that's a really good way to do it. But I've seen that too. A lot of parents that are just really hardcore on their kids. And then, their kids get a little bit of freedom. They become teenagers, get a car, they're done.
Yep. My favorite is the kid starts off, you look over and he's got like the 2004 red line, and he wins like 3 races, and you come back and he's got like the souped up $5,000 bike, and you just look over and like, Dad, you sure that's where we're going right now?
Hey, will they adopt me? Because great. No, I mean, I honestly no hate whatsoever for anybody that wants to, hook their kid up with an expensive bike. Growing up, that wasn't something that was possible for my family. We didn't really have the money to do that. We went back and forth in a 1981 VW Rabbit, same one that I was brought home from the hospital in, with, rusted out, like, sides of the doors were kind of like rusting because, we was, it just was old. I love that car. Didn't have AC, in the summertime in Houston, but, there's there's that, not being able to have the best parts and still being able to perform at your best and still be able to get better and still be able to train. But, there's always been, that factor where, you have maybe families that are a little bit more able to provide their kids with that.
Right. Nothing wrong
That's
with that.
great. But also the equipment doesn't necessarily make the rider. It is a nice thing to have. But you can also, if you can't have something like that, you can get good on a, $200 bike, just the same. And I've seen it. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then don't get those $300 carbon forks, get a $300 coach and see how that will,
Yeah.
I always tell parents that,
And the kids are still growing. So that's just tough because, a lot of them having, they're getting these bikes and then, 3-4 months later, the kids don't fit on the bikes anymore. So they're having to sell the bikes at a loss. And, again, it's super possible, for some people and other people just can't.
Right.
But I think bottom line, it just comes down to, if you want the nicest and newest tech versus you just don't have it, but it really doesn't say anything about you as a rider.
Are you involved in your local track? Like, are you part of that?
I am. Well, I used to be involved in a track when I was living in the Kansas City area. Now I'm not super involved as far as being on the board. I'll volunteer every now and then. If it's a big race, I'm not racing it, I will volunteer. Or even if I'm racing it, I'll volunteer. There was a race where I was helping hand out awards. So they let me go and just do my race real quick and then come back to the table and hand out awards. But yeah, the local track though, they have such a good board and a good, support system. It's kind of like, a well-oiled machine. They're just amazing people.
Since you're not afraid to fly or anything like that, how do you choose your layout for the upcoming season on where you're going to go to?
Kind of a mix. It really has to do with kind of what my boyfriend comes with me. He's honestly my biggest cheerleader. I love that he comes with me. So we kind of go through the list together, and it just kind of depends on a mix of factors, how easy it is to fly there, or, if it becomes super weird where it's 3 connecting flights, we're just no,
right.
What we got going on that week or that weekend, it's just kind of different, just kind of multiple factors that go into it. So not really kind of one thing.
Okay.
And do you always fly with your bikes?
Not always. There's some tracks that we will drive to, but my boyfriend hates road trips so much. And so usually if there's a way to fly to one, we will fly to one.
So, when you do fly with your bikes.
Yes.
You wouldn't ship them or have somebody else bring them for you, or
yeah, we used to do that. You don't trust nobody.
Well, yeah, usually it's just not. It's just something that we'll fly with the bikes because I feel like I don't really know anybody that's just driving and bringing a lot of bikes, and I wouldn't want to really ask around and kind of put anyone in that weird situation. Other people do. They'll have people drive their bikes, which is really cool.
Right.
But I've got the packing down to a science. Knock on wood. I know how to pack that bike like no other. So I really haven't had issues with that in the airport.
Very cool.
Nice. That's another reason why I like doing these interviews too, because it's you guys tell me so much information that I get to just learn. Okay, what was we learning yesterday? He was doing all these manuals and everything, and I'm just then I start listening to how he does his gate prep and everything, and I'm over here taking notes. All right, cool. This is, because I was well, where's your head at? And he's oh, my head's still down. I'm just looking up, and I'm oh crap, I just learned something new.
Right? It's fun having those conversations, it's learning kind of new things, and learning how different people do different things, because we talked about earlier, even especially in the gate, people do, everybody's gate is kind of a little bit different. It's just, It's interesting kind of seeing how they go about things.
And sometimes I get caught up. So I'm hold on, he's fast and he's doing it like this. I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I need to do it like that, And sometimes I'll even try it, But then you get a good group of people saying they look at the lights, and then I see Barry Nobles up at the gate and he's looking straight down. I'm man, hold on. I'm not gonna look at the lights anymore. I want to ride like Barry Nobles, man,
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of just personal preference. if it's a weird gate or if it's one of those gates where it's kind of like, yeah, I just need to keep the rover side down to get out of it. I mean, I have no problem with looking down. But if it's a good gate, it's on time and it's gonna hold me. I just find it's easier to look at the lights.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna start trying that. Last few people we asked about the lights or sound, they said lights and it helped, and they never went back.
Yeah,
and I've heard that before.
That's what it's looking like.
And I've tried it once or twice before, and I bumped the gate. As soon as I see the light, I went, and it was just too soon. Opposed to listening, I don't know. I'm gonna try it again though.
If you went right when the red light went off and you hit the gate, there could be a chance that maybe the gate was a little slow.
It was a pro gate, the barrel gate, which is supposedly a little slower, but
they can set those. They have different settings on those. They have the UCI setting, which is like what we're used to, which is like the fast gate. I believe they do have another setting where it is a little bit slower. It's like 0.2 or 0.3 of a second slower or something like that, and you can tell the difference.
Probably like Rock Hill's gate, because Rock Hill's gate for the amateurs is slow in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I heard they switch gates so the pros could have the faster gate. Something I heard. I don't know how true that is, but
well, and that's the point of practice, and that's the good thing about practice, because you can get on there before you're racing.
I always thought their gate was always slower, because the fact is that angle is so steep that they just was like, for the kids, if it dropped down too quick, they might not be ready. The little novice kids on that steep of an angle, they just end up sliding down the hill with that gate drop. I mean, I don't know. That's just what I thought.
I mean, technically the gate should be timed the same every time. Now, granted, when it is on a big hill like that, you will get going a lot faster once you're out of the gate. But the gate itself and the timing should be the same time. It should follow at the same time, regardless of how flat or the grade of the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless you get to the race or that track a day before, to practice, when they have a full day of practice. If you get there just like that Friday, they give you that 20 minutes of practice, whatever it is, you might get 2 laps in, so you might get 2 gates in. And so you're trying to figure out the whole track, figure out this gate in 2 times around, and then you get on the gate and go full blast, for your race,
Yeah.
I think it's especially dangerous for novices, with that whole practice thing. But
yes, I mean, you're relying on your, a lot of your prior training to come into that race. And so you might get just a couple gates. But that's one where usually I like when I warm up at the local track, I'll just kind of sit in the gate, roll it as it goes down, kind of roll around a little bit, get a little bit warmed up before you even start practice. Those you really can't, it's kind of just all out. But you just kind of have to, focus on just getting those couple gates and really kind of being cognizant and self-aware, and just kind of remembering where you went, what you did on the track, how you took things. And then also there's a lot to be said for just watching other people on the track.
I was just about to mention that. I always do that. Yep. Especially that Grands, because I had no time to practice. Like I said, I did hop on somebody's cruiser and run the cruiser practice also, because somebody mentioned it to me, and that helped, but definitely watching some of the, a lot of people tell me to watch some of the girls, the way they ride, because I'm not manualing or jumping yet. So they say watch like the 10, 11, 12-year-old girls. Some of them do manual and jump, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them just keep it nice and low, and they're fast, So I started watching how they ride. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ride like a little girl now. I'm like, I don't care.
They got it. Right, nothing wrong with that, right? They're flying.
So until then, it's kind of scary hitting those jumps at the speed we're going at, So,
oh yeah,
and that's
those girls
why
are
I
fast.
crashed at Grands. I didn't know how to manual or jump. I came over a double, and that's it. I just lost it.
Yeah. There's also something to be said as well, is that, those girls are fast, but also watch, a little bit older women too, older girls and women that are racing, because just like body wise, they're a little bit taller, so they're going to take things possibly a little bit different. They have a little bit more experience possibly. Right. So you want to watch kind of like different classes and kind of see what they do, but then also there's something to be said for, your skill level going into that race. And so you want to do your best for what you can do, finish that race, do give your 100%, take things the way you need to take them. And then, you go back to the drawing board and you know what you need to work on and you keep on working on that.
Right. Makes sense. And you'll be manualing and jumping in no time, Shannon. I'll get you right, buddy. Just follow me to practice. I'll get you right.
This guy comes to practice with his bike and doesn't even take his bike out the car, Goes back
but technically he's at practice with his bike.
Right.
I guess so.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's what I'm taking out of that.
Yeah, man. Because I got home. He's like, "Where you at, bro? I've been looking for you." I'm like, "I'm pulling in the driveway. I left."
Technically, his bike is at practice.
Right?
Yeah. It's
that brand new fake plastic bike that's in the back.
In my defense, it looked like there was some rain clouds about to happen. The track looked a little misty, and I wasn't about to try to get on it. I like that.
I thought you were going to say it was kind of like when you put a book under your pillow and sleep, and then when you wake up, you've absorbed all of that knowledge.
There it is, right? Right.
That's why he has his bed on his bike. I guess he sleeps on top of his bike.
Why is he hating? He's hating on the bike. And then he gets really mad because look at this. Look at my little baby right here. Look at this one.
What the hell is that thing, man?
Look at that.
Oh, I have 2 of those.
See, it's my little prophecy.
Yeah, I just got mine in last week. I got my cruiser and my class bike.
Nice. These things are awesome, right?
They're amazing. They come from Indonesia, and the guy that does it, oh my gosh, he's so talented. And
yes.
and he makes a lot of mountain bikes too. And they have like their own, like the everything moves on it, and then they have their own little suspension, and suspension even goes. It's like
I'm playing, man. So I totally forgot about that thing you had. I wanted to ask you about it. Because he posted a picture of it. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I thought it was like food that like somebody made.
Yeah, he was like, you didn't give me a piece of that cake. I was like,
yeah, I thought somebody, because it just looked weird. And I'm like, what is that, man?
Yeah, it's a replica.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. I need to post mine. But yeah, they're so cool.
I gotta find the information, and I gotta find the information for those. You gotta give me that so I can try to order one.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely help you with that.
Maybe, and also too, he could probably even put the dent that you got on your frame on your replica. On that Supercross, so you can get that dent.
Man, you never gonna let me live that one down, bro. Yeah, how many times have you rode your prophecy before?
I don't think it's actually left the bed yet. I mean, no, I had it in the trunk at practice.
It was at practice.
It was at practice.
How long have you had it for?
I don't know. What month are we on?
He builds this bike and he didn't even ride it yet. Yo, you gotta be kidding me, man.
I pedaled it a couple times.
This bike is shy. It's got to get used to the track first before it gets on the tracks.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a courtship.
Baby steps.
I'm going slow. It's a courtship. I'm going slow.
Yeah.
We got this. Trust me. We'll be ready by next week.
Yeah. By Grands.
Yeah, we'll be ready by Grands.
You need help, bro. Definitely. You're gonna get
see what I gotta deal with. See what I gotta deal with. There's no faith in this guy on me. He just doesn't believe in the system. The system works.
He's got his own system.
Right?
Definitely.
Custom system.
Day one. Yes.
Follow me for more tips.
Right? Exactly. See, she gets it, and then with you, you don't believe in me.
Only a very few understand you. I get it, man.
So I guess we're good. Like we got more than enough. Thank you for your time. I didn't mean to keep you this long. This is definitely one of the longer ones that we've done.
It's been fun.
But, I appreciate it. And so what else? How do you actually pronounce your last name? How do I?
It's pronounced Artzner.
Artzner.
Yep. Okay. It's very German last name.
Okay. Okay, cool. Got it. I just wanted to make sure that I get it right. So, we won't see you. So are you gonna? Well, you're not gonna go for the whole World Series, so we won't see you in Blue Ridge in January
or Rock Hill.
No, I think the qualifier. The qualifier.
Right. No. But like I said, I'm everybody else's biggest cheerleader when I'm off the track, so I'll definitely be screaming at somebody, probably watching it on my phone while I'm walking on the treadmill, scaring people around me.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you for your time. I'll let you enjoy your evening, and we'll probably get this one next Friday, not this Friday, but we'll probably drop it next Friday.
All right, sounds good. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Erin.